Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here, and I have a special guest I'm talking to today, John Gom. He's Chief Meteorologist in Cincinnati at WKRC. And before we get into 20 years since Katrina, John, I want to talk a little bit about where we were and how we led up to this because it's been 20 years.
Yes, life
your
moves
memories,
fast.
yes, my memory's pretty good, but there's a lot of fuzziness back then. So just to set the stage, I worked at WWL for 4 years. And at the end of 2002, I came to Charlotte and started on the air in 2003. And I had been in Charlotte about 2.5 years working for WCNC. Now, you had come from New Bern, right? And went
Yes.
to
Yeah.
New Orleans to take my job. But talk about, like, because then you moved up because David Bernard, our morning guy, had just left. So a lot happened in those 2 years, right?
Yeah, I was in New Bern, North Carolina, and I think that's why our former boss in New Orleans, Sandy Breland, liked me because I had that hurricane experience. I went through Floyd. I was on the coast for Floyd. Your viewers will remember that one as a big one. Dennis, that year there were four of them, I think, that year that we were impacted by. So I had that experience under my belt. So when you left for Charlotte, there was this job and the world's arguably most vulnerable hurricane city that was available. And they hired me in New Orleans. And you and I originally met, though, at the National Weather Association conference out in Portland, Oregon. And so I finally got to meet the guy whose job I took. And that relationship was a great one for us because I got to meet you, and it turned out for us, I guess, in a really good. Yeah.
So you started weekends. I'm trying to remember, when did David take the job to go to Miami? Was that sometime earlier in 2005 or something?
So David, I mean, it was a matter of months. I can't remember exactly, but I got promoted to David Bernard's morning position. We were still down a meteorologist because we were looking for a weekend meteorologist at that point. So I had slid into David's position, working, with the great Eric Paulson, who's no longer with us. And boy, he was a fantastic guy. And
awesome guy.
Sally Ann Roberts too, wonderful people there. And Michelle Miller, of course, who's at CBS now, just some legendary folks there. And so I got to move into that morning job there. And I think I was only officially the morning meteorologist for a few months tops. Before all this went down.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think back. Like, I remember, I think it was this day, in fact, because I was looking at the old tracks, and I'm working the weekend shift here in Charlotte. And I don't know if I emailed you or I called you. I can't remember.
So what happened was, it was a situation where I had multiple chat windows up.
Okay.
So I started, Eric Paulson had called me that morning. He was like, "Hey, let's go. When you get into the station, we got to get on there." I'm like, yep, you're right. And I woke up that morning just with a sick feeling in my stomach. Because as you recall, when Katrina came off the Florida coast, the models kind of recalibrated the position of the storm. And there was a huge shift to the west that occurred with the model data. And so that happened the prior night. And so we knew, I went to bed that night thinking, oh boy, here we go. Yeah. And I woke up that morning and I knew I had that nervous feeling and just unsettled feeling that morning. So I had it end that morning, and we started our coverage, and I had multiple chat windows up. So I was chatting with David Bernard, who was with Brian Norcross there. They were giving me advice on how to handle the storm, how to cover it. I mean, it was wonderful, because Brian, one of the leading, hurricane guys in the country, going through Andrew there in South Florida. So they were texting me advice, and they were watching my stream, and they were encouraging me and say, "Hey, you're doing a great job." I think you and I maybe had some email exchanges.
Yes.
And, and the one thing you said in the email was, "Let me know how I can help."
Yes.
And a light bulb went off in my head.
Yeah.
So
in full disclosure, I think it was somewhat rhetorical at the time.
I know, yeah. There wasn't.
I figured, I'm like,
what actually happened is what you had in your mind.
So I figured, well, maybe I can update the website. And back then, it was hard to share graphics. I'm thinking, can I FTP a graphics? I mean, it was
Yes,
a different world back then. But
a
I was
totally
thinking
different
I'd
world.
help you digitally at the very least.
Yeah, exactly. Well, today you can help me remotely, so
Exactly, it'd be
it's sort of
completely
come
different
full
today.
circle. But yeah, let me know how I can help. And I responded. I think I responded to you. I'm like, we're actually a person short.
Yeah,
Would you be willing to come in and physically be here and help? And
yeah,
you're a huge weather nerd. You know
yeah.
what the stakes are. You weren't going to miss something historical. You're like, yeah,
Yeah, I
sure.
was like you. I felt the same way that morning, and it's because like you, once you work in New Orleans, you kind of know the vulnerabilities.
Yeah,
And when I saw that track shift the night before, I was like you. I was like, oh, this is like
yeah,
for people in New Orleans, that's the worst case track scenario, right? Coming up the mouth of the river, major storm, and so that's why I reached out to you because I'm like, I knew this is gonna be a bad one. I think I knew David had left, so I knew you were kind of short staffed, but that led to the other part of the story, John, where not only were you short staffed, but you had a huge family event that was about to happen.
yeah. So so after that little exchange with us, I went down and talked to Sandy,
Yeah,
your former boss, my news director, who's now a big wig at Gray Television.
I know she's way up there.
Oh, she's done tremendous, and she, she was just a fantastic leader, a fantastic person in the
Yeah,
newsroom. And I said, hey, Brad's willing to come help us out. She called your boss in Charlotte right away
yeah,
and made it happen. So it was later she told me, hey, he's coming. We got it taken care of. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's fantastic. So yeah, so one of the reasons that I had so much anxiety waking up on that Saturday morning was the fact that my wife was 9 months pregnant with her first child. And
yeah.
so again, one of these things, you probably had no idea what you were coming into here with this whole thing.
No, I mean that's where like it all started making sense to me. I'm like, wow, this really was like meant to be almost. Like I had to go there.
She had her baby shower that day.
Oh wow.
So she was, with some ladies doing her baby shower while I was at work, doing what I did. So it was some pretty high stakes stuff going on right there.
Yeah, that was just wild. And so, from my standpoint, it was weird because I reached out to you, and I remember I did the 6 o'clock news. And I think during the 6 o'clock news that night, my boss called me and said, "Pack a bag. You've got a flight at like 8 p.m." All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like 6 o'clock, and the flight was like at 8:20 or something. Now, thankfully, I'm close to the airport, but I had no luggage, so I'm calling my future wife, who was my girlfriend at the time.
Yeah. Well, she's a rock star in this whole thing too.
Yeah, she was amazing. I'm like, hey, start packing me a bag because I'm going to New Orleans. And she's like, what? What do I pack you on? And here I'm thinking like, just throw me a couple days worth of stuff. And yeah, 2 suits because I'll probably be on TV. Well, I never wore any of those suits.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I think I wore a tie the first day doing the morning show, and that was about it. But yeah, so I told her and literally went home, grabbed my bag, and thankfully I grabbed my PowerShot Canon camera. Was the only thing I could document.
Oh yeah, I had one of those back in the day.
Yeah, and I grabbed it and I jumped on a plane and flew to New Orleans and had no idea what I was getting into at the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was on the air about 12 hours straight that night. And I received a call. And you remember the little office phones that were in there? I think mine was sitting on the fridge in the back of the weather office.
Yep.
I had not moved to David Bernard's desk, I think, yet at this point.
You're still in the central spot.
I'm still in the central, where the weekend person,
yes.
Your desk is the top of the refrigerator where we keep the drinks. And it was Jen, and it was between 9 and 10 o'clock at night. She said, hey, I think I'm in labor.
Oh.
My friend Karen's taking me to the hospital. And it was like, whoa, okay. And so part of me was relieved because her going into labor then was better than during the storm.
For sure.
It happened to a lot of women, and that was not a good situation. The timing, you might think the timing was bad, but that actually wasn't horrible timing. And I was somewhat relieved that it was now and not during the storm, because that was probably my greatest fear, that what happened in the middle of the storm. But after that phone call, I went back down to Sandy, told her what was going on, and Sandy's like, you've got to go. You've got to go up there. She was a mom. She knew the drill, and she knew we didn't have any family in town.
Yeah.
I had the one friend that was a really good friend, but we didn't have family there. We were far
Sure.
away from, 12 hours away from the closest family. So Sandy said, "You got to go. We're going to take care of this." And so I went back upstairs because we had multiple levels at that station. The newsroom was on one floor and the weather studio on another floor.
Yeah.
Went back upstairs and started going back on air, doing my thing again. And I remember I had to give the new Hurricane Center update at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And as I went on, it was Dennis Woltering and Karen Swenson that were anchoring that night. As they were tossing to me for the latest hurricane track from the Hurricane Center, they made a crosstalk reference to the fact that Jennifer was in labor. And they're like, "This is crazy. We hear that your wife is in labor too."
Yeah.
My in-laws had no idea, but they were watching in the early days of internet streaming, the internet stream from Bloomington, Indiana. And that's how they found out their grandchild was on the way. Can you imagine?
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so where were you guys living in New Orleans at the time?
We were in Slidell.
Okay, so you were over in Slidell. Okay, that's what I figured. I knew you ended up over there, but I didn't know if that's where you were originally.
Yeah, we were in Slidell. So after that whole exchange, I did what I had to do, and I was getting ready to leave. And that's when you contacted me and said, "Hey, I just landed at the airport."
Yeah.
So I felt like, okay, they've got someone here that's going to help, and so I can go do what I need to do. And so it was such a great relief for me that you would come in, that you would land it, and that was kind of like a sign to me that, okay,
you could
get
go.
your family stuff. This is going to be okay.
Which is crazy because we never saw each other the whole time.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
You took off. I think I took a cab directly to the station because I saw Carl. And I stayed there for a little bit, and they put me up at the Hyatt Regency Superdome. And so they're like, "Go get some sleep because you're doing the morning show tomorrow, starting with the 12 hours on, 12 hours off." And I remember going to the Superdome, Hyatt Regency, 17th floor. I think I was way up there. And, I got a good night's sleep. I slept pretty good, got up early. And I remember this, John, this is the thing back in my mind. I probably knew something bad was going to happen. I had a backpack, so I took that with me with all the stuff I needed for the day. But I took my suitcase and I put it in the bathroom and I shut the door of the bath because I figured maybe the windows would break, and it was the smartest thing I ever did this whole time because sure enough, that saved all my stuff because I never went back to that room until after the storm because I worked 12-hour shift and then we got evacuated back to the Hyatt Regency. And the hotel staff, New Orleans Police Department, they would not let us go back up to our rooms. They made us all go to that third floor ballroom where pretty much the entire station, all the people that stayed at WWL, half the staff was up in Baton Rouge already. That's where we went. And so I didn't get to my stuff until after the storm. And once I did get back to my room, I had to hike up 17 flights of stairs with a firefighter and open the door. Windows are broken. I could see the Superdome roof completely gone. And luckily, all my stuff was in the bathroom with the door shut and was safe. So it was wild. That was just a crazy 24 hours.
The little decisions, that
Yeah.
you make along the way.
So talk about like what happened, how you guys then had to evacuate for the storm, right? Because now
part of that whole decision was conversations with you. And so we were at North Shore Hospital there in Slidell at the time. And in speaking with you at that point, there was still a possibility that we were going to end up, right there in the eye wall, in the high surgery. It was so close on how this thing was coming in. And so the hospital was not going to be a safe place to be.
I remember like you were actually in a worse spot than I thought New Orleans was at the time because it was shifting a little east and we were like, holy cow, John, you're like right in the path.
And so the conversation with you was again key on the decisions that we made at that time because we weren't sure if we're going to write it out or how it was going to go down. And so that conversation with you convinced me because I unlike today, I didn't have access to tons of data
Yeah.
It wasn't like I can go to an app or do anything 20
Yeah.
years
Your
ago.
mind's in a completely different spot too. You're
Mine's
not
a
even
different
thinking about
spot.
it.
I'm seeing what I'm seeing on TV,
Yeah.
and that's about all I have to go on. So I need some more information. But what you said convinced me that, okay, I need to get them the heck out of here. Like,
Yeah.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. When that decision was made, Sandy again offered to get WFAA's chopper that was there from Dallas to
Yeah.
evac us out from the hospital roof. There was a helicopter landing pad, a heliport on top of the roof there. So that would have been a possibility. My wife said, nope, not taking the power ride. I'm not doing that. Not doing that at
Yeah.
all.
Don't
So
blame her.
she turned that down. So there were some complications with Connor's birth. Everything had to happen so quick that
Yeah.
there was a possibility that he had Group B strep. Jen had
Oh,
tested positive for that, so that can be fatal to a newborn if it's not
yes.
done properly. So that delayed us leaving the hospital. They had to give him some antibiotics and such in order to make sure he was going to be okay. So it wasn't until after 7 o'clock that we were finally able to leave. Now,
Wow.
prior to that, I had gone home. I went to our home in Slidell. I was on the phone with my mother-in-law. What do I need? Tell me what I need for the baby. What should I take?
Yeah.
And so I took just whatever I could. I mean, we had the nursery set up. We had everything ready like most parents do. And he never, ever went to that nursery. He was never there at that house, which is crazy. But
Yeah.
got my stuff, everything I had, threw it in the car. I had to pick up our dog. We had a little dog. He was a 12-pound Bichon Frise named Calvin. And so I got him. He was with some friends. He was the first hospital visitor Connor had. I snuck him into the hospital. And at some point, somebody's like, "You can't have a dog in here." I'm like, "Do you guys realize what's going on? Like,
Yeah.
we're really going to worry about right now." And then they let it go at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't leave until after 7 at night. And
Wow.
by that time, outer bands were already coming in.
Yeah.
So we're heading north out of there. And, thankfully, my sister-in-law and her husband and their 3-month-old baby decided to come down from Nashville and go as far south as they could to meet us. And so I think it was Laurel, Mississippi was the farthest point south they were able to go. So by the time we got there, I mean, a trip that shouldn't have taken long at all took us a few hours to get up to Laurel because it was gridlock. And there were times in my mind that I'm sitting in the car, I'm sitting there, and Jen is in the back with Connor, and me and the dog are up front. And I'm thinking, did I do the right thing here? Are we going to get stuck out here? Are we not going to be able to make it out of here? Like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? We didn't have Google Maps back then. We didn't have Waze. We couldn't see how long it was really going to take. We just knew that we weren't moving, and we were just sitting there.
So talk a lot about that, because I think people forget this was such a mass evacuation, especially that Saturday, because I remember when I got there, there was this whole wave of people, the normal people who leave no matter what. When people saw that satellite image on Saturday of this Cat 5, it was like the wake up call where all of a sudden a bunch of people, into Sunday morning, I should say, when there was like a secondary evacuation. All of a sudden people are like, oh crap, let's leave. And it was mass chaos getting out of Southeast Louisiana. I mean, were the stores open on the way? How was gas? What was that trip like?
What I remember specifically was before we even evacuated, like I said, I had to go back to my house. I had to pick up our dog. And that process, because of the chaos in Slidell at that point and all the gridlock, that took me hours to complete. Something that should have been 30 minutes, quick back and forth, around town, took forever. So the gridlock was starting right then and there. And it was the hugest evacuation I've ever seen, as far as all the people trying to get out of there at the same time. And so I had a full tank of gas already, because I had gotten gas at some point. I thought about that. I'm like, okay, I need to have gas. I need to be ready for this. So I did. I wasn't concerned about that. but yeah, the gas stations were running out of gas already at this point. Because when there's such a massive evacuation like this, all the gas stations don't have enough fuel to fuel all these cars at once who are going to need it. So that becomes a major issue. It was so one of those things that just gave you so much anxiety because of the unknowns. Like, how are we going to get out of here? How long is this going to take? Is this line of cars that hasn't moved in 45 minutes actually going to move eventually? You know, and those are questions on your mind. And when you have a newborn in the back seat,
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's insane. But he was born at 3:20 in the morning on August 28th, 2005. And during that time when he was born, we turned off the TV. I think we had some old Western on or something. We turned the very least, because we just wanted to have that moment and moment of peace and clarity. But I think that the biggest thing was, Brad, is that the biggest thing was I had complete clarity on all of my decisions then.
Yeah.
And knew exactly what I needed to do. Yeah, there was some anxiety, but everything was very clear to me in the moment. And so there was no hesitation. It was all, okay, I need this information. I need that information. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. And so I'm not sure that today I would be as calm and clear as the 30-something-year-old me was back then. But it was a crazy time just getting out of there. And so we finally made it to Laurel, Mississippi. And I changed my first diaper in the back of an SUV at a BP station in Laurel, Mississippi. A place that will always be special to me.
Yeah, that's crazy. And what was so you were trying to get to Nashville eventually? Was that the goal?
That was the key. Yes, we wanted to get to Nashville. So we met them in Laurel and we started north. The problem was I had been up for 40 hours straight at that point. And so I was starting, when I was driving before we got to Laurel, I was starting to hallucinate. I was seeing things that weren't real.
Yeah.
And anybody knows if you've been sleep deprived like that, that begins to happen with your brain. And so it wasn't safe for me to drive. So my brother-in-law took over driving me. My wife actually went with my sister-in-law. And so they were dead tired too at that point. We found a hotel in Alabama that was willing to give us a room for 6 hours. Someone had checked out. They had a room. They didn't expect the next people to be there until the following morning. So they're like, you guys can have this room for 6 hours at a very tiny price. So you guys can sleep and we'll send someone back in to clean it. Like, hotels were doing that for people. People knew the gravity of the situation, and people outside New Orleans were trying to help in any possible way they could, which was great to see. So we stopped at, I think, an IHOP in the middle of the night to get breakfast in the middle of the night, and, you know, crashed at this hotel and took a nap for 4 or 5 hours, and then made it to Nashville the next morning.
Wow. That's, what a wild trip. So you never came back, basically, right?
No. And so that's the thing.
Like what happened after that you did you guys ever come back to the house? Like, I mean, you kind of made a conscious decision, right? That I'm probably not going to come back.
You know, and that's the thing. So after we made it to Nashville, you know, we're sitting there watching the news coverage, and, you know, when the flood walls broke, I mean, it didn't shock me, you know, knowing how much water that thing was pushing, you know, and in my coverage leading up to that, on that Saturday, we talked about that possibility that, hey, this thing's going to be pushing a lot of water, and we don't know if the levee systems are really going to be able to handle this. And that was no secret. I mean, we knew that. I'd done many stories with the Corps of Engineers, and they knew there were weaknesses and vulnerabilities in that system, and they were worried about it. Quite frankly. And so, but when it happened, and you see the pictures, you see the grocery store that you drive by every day on your way to WWL under 15 feet of water, and it hits you. It's like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And so after we were in Nashville for a couple of weeks, I found out our house had 2 large pine trees that had gone through it. Rainwater had poured in. The storm surge had stopped shy of our house. We were off Thompson Road there in Slidell, pretty close to the wall south of the Weather Service. And
yeah, I lived in an apartment not too far from
there. Yeah. And we were renting it was a nice little 2-bedroom home. It was a newer home. And all the neighborhoods over there that were named after birds. I think Carla Arredondo lived over there at one point briefly. Yeah. There were different bird names on all the streets there. It was a nice little neighborhood, and they were building some newer homes there. And so that there wasn't a storm surge that made it there. From Bayou Liberty would have been the closest waterway south of there. But we had pine trees that went through the roof of the house. So rain had poured in from the hurricane because it was surrounded by 100-foot pines and huge vulnerability.
I remember the North Shore. That's what you saw was all those pine trees just all over the place, slicing houses in half. It was crazy.
And that was my greatest fear when we had a shed in the back. I had tied it down, ahead of time. And it was one of these things where you're looking around at that backyard and you're thinking, this isn't good because these trees can come down. They're going to do a lot of damage. So that's essentially what happened. So I had a friend who drove by the house and said, yeah, you got pines through, the roof is gone. It's, not good. Now we were only renting the house, so we weren't owning it. So we had gone back to Nashville and we were there a couple of weeks. And finally I'm like, all right, we got to go down there and get our stuff out. So my brother-in-law and I rented a U-Haul trailer. We knew that we were going to have to pack our own gas because there was no gas available. So I went to Walmart and bought 15 big plastic gas cans, and we filled it up, filled them all up, and put them in the trailer. And we did the math on how much gas we were going to need to get down and get back to the place where there was going to be gas available again. And we successfully did that. But it was, we had to really think these things out because the biggest commodities after that storm were fuel, water, guns, and ammo.
Yeah.
Because it had dissolved everything. So you want water, you need to fuel, and guns and ammo for protection. And so we went down, made it to the house, loaded up our most valuable stuff in that trailer, got out the stuff we thought that we needed to get because there was a lot of looting going on, obviously. And thankfully, nobody had touched our neighborhood. Everything was fine. And we got all that stuff back out and put it back in storage in Nashville. And then after that, we ended up with my in-laws in Bloomington, Indiana. So here I am, brand new baby, living in the basement of my in-laws' house in Bloomington, Indiana. And we're trying to figure out, okay, when can I get back? That was part of the equation.
Yeah.
How am I going to get back? How is this all, going to go down? And so I think one of the unfortunate things, my wife was a social worker at the time. She worked in Chalmette, and the agency she worked for went under 15 feet of water. So her office was underwater. And the 3 owners of the agency, all 3 of them had lost their homes and had lost everything.
Yeah.
So essentially, that wasn't moving forward. My wife didn't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
And so that they said, we don't see operations beginning here for a long time, if ever. We don't know what's going to happen. So her job was gone. And, she indicated to me, she's like, I don't want to go back. There's nothing for me to go back to. And, she had some postpartum and everything after the baby.
Yeah.
And so as a husband, you got to listen to that. You got to be like, oh no, that's silly, honey. I've got this fantastic job that I got. It was a fantastic job. I mean, that morning show was #1 in metered television markets in the country. I mean, it was a juggernaut back in those days. It was one of those jobs that you could stay in and retire and be there your entire career. And when I got that job, that was my line of thought was, I'm going to be a WWL to the day I retire. This is a fantastic place to work. You
Yeah.
know, I
It
love it.
was a great place. Oh,
Oh my gosh, the management was tremendous. And
yeah.
I mean, they won a Peabody for that coverage. You
Yeah.
know, it was something else.
Yeah. That I tell people all the time, that's still I mean, I love where I live now and I love my station. That was the best station I
Yeah,
ever worked at just because it had all, a lot of companies and stations say family and all this stuff. That was legit, like a
it was
family down
legit family. It was it
there.
was. I mean, I think when I got there, Jimmy was only the second general manager the station had
Yeah.
ever had. Like, are
Yeah.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
And she had retired right before Katrina.
Yeah.
So there was consistency, there was very good operations. It was extremely, I mean, I thought I got the network when I arrived there, Brad.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
they said, oh, you need to do this hurricane special. You're going to be on a hurricane special. You're doing this story. Go out and interview this professor at LSU and bring the tape back, in the old days. And so I
Yeah.
did. And by the next day, by the time I got in, Dominic had already written the whole script and had like my script. And he's like, let me know if you need me. Like, I'm like, what? What is this? I thought I was going
Yeah.
to write this myself and do everything myself. It was such a big operation, and so
Yeah.
I
It was
didn't
awesome.
leave there. I didn't want to leave at all, but um, family first, right? And
Yeah.
when my wife was like, I really don't want to go back. It's like, what are we going to do? Like,
Yeah.
and so that was a tough conversation to have with Sandy and the people there, and I explained it, and I felt horrible. I mean, I did
Yeah.
because and that was part of the whole thing about, me not being there with you guys because it was like a family. It's like I
Yeah.
got two families. Okay. I've got
Yeah.
my wife and my newborn son, and I got to take care of them. But then I've got my family over here, and I want to be there for them. I want to, like, different circumstances. Are you kidding? I mean, this is the biggest weather event of our lives.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to be there. And so that was the conflict with me internally.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave my family there.
Yeah. And you weren't alone. There were a lot of people that just, for that reason, there was nothing to come back to. Yeah, we had our jobs, but that was the hardest part about working this storm for me. Even though I could come back to Charlotte anytime, I just a guilt trip. Like my stuff was okay,
Yeah.
but everybody I worked with, because we were so close with those coworkers, seeing what they were going through was the most traumatic part of the whole thing. Was like seeing people you knew and really cared about lose everything, and all their families are in other states. That's the other hard part. People don't realize all these people are working 12-hour shifts in the middle of this horrific disaster. They've lost everything, and their families are 8 to 10 hours away. And
Yeah.
so it was a tough time. So you saw a lot of people that just did not come back for that reason, because, like you said, the work was great, but that outside of work was the problem. There was nothing there for you to go back to outside of working at your job.
I was that's something I thought about so much because I heard somebody from WWO tell me that they estimated like maybe close to 80% of the people that work there had total losses of
Yeah.
their homes.
Yeah.
And I had a couple pine trees through my roof, and I lost all my furniture and whatever, but it wasn't, I had stuff that was still there, and so, yeah, that was a hard thing. So the most difficult thing for me was not being there for my work family, because I'm
Yeah.
still tight with those people to this day. Like,
Yeah.
Carl calls me and needs anything. Like, what do you need? David, what do you need?
Yeah.
Sophia, you remember Sophia, who's
Oh gosh,
a
yes.
wonderful producer there, and she worked her way up. And these are such good human beings.
Yeah.
And the sense of guilt I had of not being there was just overwhelming. But at the same time, I had to be there for my wife and my son and make sure that was okay. So yeah, Jen didn't want to go back, and I had to have that conversation with them, and they were unbelievable, Brad. They're like,
Yeah.
we completely understand,
Yeah.
And at the time, Belo, they offered me and my family health insurance for a year,
Yeah.
completely free.
Yeah.
Like, they were such good people that were in management of that company.
Oh, it was amazing. Like when I was down there, they came in, the CEO knew everybody's name, came down with cash, right? Literally handing out $100 bills, like $500-600 to everybody, and to use whatever they needed, buy food, buy clothes. They were amazing, John. It was.
You don't see that anymore. It's
No,
incredible.
I was so proud to work for that company at that time. I'm like,
Yes.
wow, this is an amazing company.
It really was. And they told me after that, they let me out of the contract, and they said, if there are any jobs and weather jobs at any below station that you're ever interested in, like, call us directly, like, let us know.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
it was, and I didn't know what I was going to do
Yeah,
at that point. And, so it worked out. But that's the one thing I remember is the generosity of the company,
yeah,
understanding the situation, understanding, your employees are away from their families. They've lost everything. They're working tirelessly. And I heard from a lot of people at the time that being in work mode and working so hard helped them take their minds off all of that other stuff.
100% for sure. Yeah, the problem was, it was like people were so buried in their work, but every day, if you had a moment to think, that's when you saw people start to break down, like realizing, holy cow, this is like, it was daunting. I think pretty much every day for the 2 weeks I was there initially, there'd be a daily occurrence of somebody, it's just them grasping the situation and it hitting them, and just having that emotional letdown and everything come. I remember when they started doing the aerial photography of the flooding, and I pulled it up in our system and was showing it during the morning show one day from Baton Rouge, and when we showed New Orleans East underwater, and Sally Ann saw her neighborhood, and it hit her. Like, she knew it was probably flooded, but when she saw those aerials, it was like, oh man, it kind of hit her all of a sudden on air. And so that happened quite a bit, John, where people were covering it, and then they had a second to think about it, and it was like they fully grasped, like, I don't have anything to go back to. It was crazy.
Watching the coverage from afar, that's what did it to me. Like,
Yeah.
The grocery store there on the way, WWL, the Circle grocery store.
Yeah.
When I saw that underwater, I drove by that every day.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful grocery store in the middle of a neighborhood that needed a really good grocery store and needed access to fresh food. And
we're getting off the interstate right there.
Yeah, I drove by it every day. It's a landmark and just a great community spot. And when I saw that underwater, I broke down, Brad. I broke down just sobbing. Like, when you see the pic, you know in your head, but when you see it and it connects your heart, then that was powerful images for me to see. I could see how Sally Ann with New Orleans East would have seen the aerials, and just that would have been tough for her.
Yeah.
Good person.
So, I mean, now, it's been 20 years, John. You've landed obviously in the spot you were meant to be. You're in your hometown, right?
Likewise. I mean, I kind of think everything kind of turns out for a reason,
Yeah.
One
At
thing.
the time, you're thinking, no, this is all the worst, but you're right. There's some plan involved in all this, right?
Yeah, I think there's a bigger plan usually. I don't always
put you where you are. And
we never know what it is.
Yeah. But I do love the fact that, so your son, obviously, he's a Katrina baby. And I love that you guys kind of celebrate his birthday more than the anniversary of the storm, right?
So that's what it's turned into for us. So yeah, the storm happened. Yeah. But what it has become for us is a celebration of him.
Yeah.
And that we believe that God brought him into the world at the exact right time. Somebody might have been like, that's the wrong time. When it was happening, I thought, no, this is the right time, because the storm still hasn't hit. If it's during the storm or after the storm, that would be a bad time. So it's turned into a celebration of him. He's a sophomore at Xavier University now in Cincinnati. He is studying sport management there, and business and coaching. And ultimately, he wants to get into coaching somehow. And he's a huge New Orleans Saints fan to this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals are his secondary team. The Saints are like his big team. Yeah, so that's
awesome.
Saints and Pelicans. I mean, he's all about New Orleans sports. So we've got to take a trip to the Superdome, him and I.
Yeah,
it's one of the things. One of the things that we want to do together at some point is get to the Superdome. I gotta call Mike Haas and be like, Haas, get us into the broadcast booth.
he would love that.
Help us out here, because this kid And we had gone back to New Orleans on a family vacation, actually. When the kids were a little younger, we went back April of one year with some friends of ours. And that's a completely another story, Brad. And this is why I think there's divine intervention here. When we finally moved to the Cincinnati area, we moved into northern Kentucky, and we were renting a small home in Florence, Kentucky. And we were looking for a church to go to. And so we found a church, and we go to this church for the first time, and the pastor is out in the parking lot, and we start talking to him, and he's like, "You guys are new here?" It's like, "Yes, we just came from Louisiana." And we kind of explained that whole story in the nutshell. And there's a woman standing next to the pastor whose jaw is about hitting the ground. She's like, "I'm from Slidell."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we knew people in common. She had been living in northern Kentucky because she had worked for an airline here in northern Kentucky. It's close to the airport here. And so we were connected already.
Wow.
And so they're fantastic friends of ours to this day, 20 years. And we went to New Orleans with them. And that was our first time going back. And her parents are still part-time residents down there in Slidell. And they're up here the other half of the year.
That's great.
But yeah, so I mean, so again, all these little things that I don't think are coincidences that happened and made us feel very connected here because we had a connection back to Louisiana through that family.
Yeah.
But it was great going back down there and seeing everybody. And I'm walking through the French Quarter, and I'm seeing people I know. Like it's just that only happens in New Orleans, right? It's one of those crazy things, and
like the smallest big city you'll ever go to.
I got to visit, with the late great Eric Paulson at the time, and we took the kids to the station. Here's where Daddy used to work, and they were younger then. It's probably about 10 years ago that we were able to go back. And Sophia was there, still working there at the time, and so it was great to see everybody and great to see things bouncing back at that point. And that's what I always envisioned. I'm like, you know what? Someday I'm gonna take this kid back as a young man, and he's gonna see this place better than ever, hopefully.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's such a good story. I think that's the thing I think about. Like, it's 20 years now. It feels like it was yesterday in some stance, but it also feels like a bazillion years ago. But John, like, what is your lasting legacy you think of Katrina to you? I mean, we know about the weather disaster and what it did to New Orleans, but for you personally, is it your son? Is it the whole? I mean, what is the legacy for you for Katrina?
It's family, Brad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's family. And, when times are tough, life isn't always going to be easy. There's going to be ups and downs, certainly. But it's and your family isn't just the people related to you. It's your work family, right? The people at WWL were my family. They were important to me. And even though I was only there for a blink of an eye, really, they were important to me. And so it was family that helped us get us through this, encouraging us, supporting us. So when I think of Katrina, I think of the meteorology involved, and I really geek out on that. And we could geek out on that forever, but and I think of the problems with the response that were huge and all that. But when you boil it down for us, it was about family. It was about connection. It was about light in the darkest times, because no matter how dark, no matter how dismal things are, there's always people out there that are trying to help. There's always light. There's always good out there too that's going to come through. And sometimes the darkness, the bad things overwhelm that, and it's hard to see. But just the staff at the hotel in the middle of Alabama, they gave us a hotel room for 6 hours. Like, thank you. That was huge. Little things, little acts of kindness like that. There was so much of that. People think of Katrina, they think of the bad stuff and the looting and all the horrible stuff that came out of it. There was so much good too. So many acts of kindness. I think of the video of the WWL photographer that's filming just floodwaters, and a car races into the floodwaters. I'm using his name right now, but he runs to save the person out of their car. Is their car sinking? Like things like that happened. where, yeah, we see the worst of humanity, but at the same time, we're also seeing the best of humanity too coming through.
Yeah.
So I try to focus on those good things.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's so funny you said the hotel staff thing. The one of the things that sticks out to me being at the Hyatt Regency, it was pretty brutal there for a while, being trapped in there. But the morning after the storm, there's no power, there's no water. The hotel staff still cooked breakfast for everybody with like propane stoves and with
Oh,
flashlights, and it was like I was like, this is unbelievable. We walk into a room and they had a full breakfast set up for everybody, and it was just that kind of stuff does stick out to you. It really does. Like how
that makes me think, it made me think of Frank Davis cooking
yeah.
for everybody
Oh
and how
yeah,
he's
I
cooking,
remember.
and I mean, it was fantastic. And so I heard, for the storms, Frank always cooks,
Yeah,
the
comes
storm,
into the
he comes in
kitchen
and
and
cooks
goes
for
to
everybody,
town. Yeah. Oh
So I think of him and, the wonderful person that he was, and him and his wife made
oh
me coming in there. We're out of towners.
yeah.
We don't know how to pronounce things. Plaquemines Parish took me forever to figure out how to pronounce. And I had people calling me mad that I couldn't pronounce it properly. Oh, and then the Gulf,
Yeah.
in our northern accent, we say golf and golf like this
Yeah.
a lot of times. They got on
Yeah.
this about that sometimes. So we're kids. We don't, we're trying our best and we're in a new city. But people like Frank and his wife were just so warm and
Gosh,
welcoming.
Frank, but it's so funny. After I moved to Charlotte, he used to send me seafood from
Oh
New
my
Orleans.
gosh.
He'd be like, "Hey, I got to
Oh,
get you," because he had some deal with like the Louisiana Seafood Association or
sure, he
something.
had lots of deals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would just get random packages and like dry ice, and it would be like shrimp or crab, and I'm like, and I'm not even a big seafood person because he's like, I got to make sure in North Carolina you get real seafood. That's what he kept
Oh my
telling
gosh.
me. So he was such a gem. He was just an amazing person.
Yeah, and the fact that and so people that aren't familiar with the area, the Twin Span Bridge
Yeah.
that I had to drive across to get back to the hospital, so it's a 6 mile bridge or so there, was destroyed by Katrina, one of the spans. So they built a
Yeah.
new bridge and they named it after Frank Davis.
Yeah.
Just incredible, just
He
incredible.
was just,
And
yeah, there's nobody like him. He was amazing.
when we went back and took the kids back 10 years after, we're driving across that bridge and I'm like, kids, see this bridge and the name of it?
Yeah.
I knew that guy. He was fantastic. Like, what? Like,
Yeah. Just, they don't make people like Frank Davis anymore. He's just
but that's
amazing.
the thing, Brad. There were so many people that were that at
Yeah.
WWL. So many people that were so caring and such an integral part of the community. And I think that's so key for media companies like we've always worked for to this day. And we say it all the time. You and I have been doing it forever.
Hmm.
You got to be part of that community. You
Yeah.
got to understand the community. You got to know the community, and that is so important. And that's why the people that were at WWL back in the day, they really had an impact on that community because they were part of that community,
Yeah.
and they were really good people.
Yeah. Well, John, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you so much. It's crazy to think it's been 20 years. It's crazy to think how our paths crossed like this. And
Yeah.
but you're right. I always feel like this was all meant to be because there were so many forks in the road during this whole thing. Like we could have gone different directions, and somehow we all ended up on the right path. Somehow, I don't know
Yeah.
how. Because
That's
there was times like I remember getting called because that 2 month period. I don't know if you remember. I was there for 2 weeks. I came home for a week. I went back and worked Rita for 2 weeks. Then I came back and I flew to Fort Myers, Florida to cover Wilma because the
oh
station was like, "Hey, you're the hurricane guy now." So they flew me down there and I covered it for Belo and NBC News.
my.
And so in a 2 month time span, I covered three of the strongest hurricanes in the Gulf of Mexico. And I remember Sandy and Jimmy bringing me in the office during Rita and saying, "What would it take for you to come back?" And I said, I love you guys,
I
but
remember you telling me that.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I love you guys, but like, I have my future wife who was my girlfriend at the time. I love
Yeah.
Charlotte. And
Yeah.
they totally understood. But I remember them saying, and this is how Bila was, they said, when you go back, you're not going to be doing weekends anymore in Charlotte. That's what they told me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was kind of how I got promoted. And it kind of set my path to being the chief and everything else. So it
Well
was just
deserved
amazing.
promotion. And then I think about that a lot because, obviously for Rita, I had booked plane tickets to come back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I was coming back. I wasn't sure where I was going to live because I couldn't live in my house. I had no clue what the logistics of anything were going to be. I was trying to get information on, okay, where can I live? Like, am I going to have to get a hotel? Like, I'm going to have to figure this out. And I had plane tickets. I was set to come back.
Yeah.
And my wife begged me, like, please, no, please,
Oh, yeah.
please. And it was like just one of those things, But I will say, I want to say this last thing that Brad Panovich is like a folk hero to my family now because is at our worst time, here comes Superman Brad landing at Armstrong International Airport, coming in to save the day. And you were like a surrogate for me there, when I had to exit. And, I'm glad everything turned out and it worked out. But to this day, and I know, we had dinner, our wives and us together when we were in Charlotte for a wedding. We're like, we got to hook up with the Panoviches. And my wife just wanted to thank you and Tammy in person so much.
Yeah.
Because it was,
I think my wife was more stressed out than anybody because
I'm
it's
sure
tough because, we're 2 years together. I met her when I first got here. And as you know, the communication was horrible. So, you just get like one phone call, like, hey, the storm's hitting. And then you don't hear from me for like a couple days. It was freaking her out. She didn't know what was going on because there was no way to communicate. And so I think for her, that was the stressful part of this. And like you said, like when I came back and I had to go back for Rita, she was like saying like, what are you doing? Like, you're going back?
Wait, what?
Yeah, there was a lot of angst for that as well. But I felt called to do it because after being down there, I had to go back.
You're like me. I mean, you've been interested in weather since you were a child. And so one of the stories I tell is when I was in the 6th grade at Brantner Elementary in Mount Carmel, a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio, and we had a teacher. Her name is Mrs. Algiers. She just retired recently. She used to have us write in a journal every day. And it was just, we could write about whatever she put up on the board that day, the chalkboard back in the day, or we could write about anything we wanted. The point was we just were trying to write to take our thoughts and our feelings and put them down on paper, communicate them. And so one day she put a question up on the board: what is your greatest dream in life? And little 12-year-old me thought to himself, he's like, well, I want to be a meteorologist someday, right? Okay. And so I wanted to write about that, but I thought, what's the coolest thing that a meteorologist could do? And I wrote that someday I want to be a meteorologist that would help to save a big city from a horrible hurricane.
Yeah.
And so I think you and I are similar in that we feel called. Like it's not about being on TV for us, for guys like us.
Yeah.
I don't care less about TV and all the stuff with that. It's more about the science and helping people, right? And that's what I'm driven by, And I will say that, like, living in a non-hurricane area, like when I see the hurricanes, and I'm like, I want to go down there, I want to help. And so, that's one of the things that kind of drives us. It's the science that we're interested in. It's trying to use the science to make better predictions and to help people. And there's so many people that got into TV because they just like being on TV. But I know for guys like us, it's just, we love the science. We're fascinated by it. We're always learning. And that's the cool thing about meteorology. You're always learning. And we want to use that to just help people, to serve people. And that's the main thing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I feel the same way. It's like, that is the amazing thing, is take this credible science that and use it for good, kind of like tell people what's going to happen and keep people safe. And so, John, I just want to thank you.
When I met you in 2004, I'm like, yeah, he's wired the same way I
am. You got that mentality. It's just, it's crazy like that.
No, I like you because you're an Ohio guy too.
Yeah, well, that probably helps. You grew up in that crazy weather. But John, thank you so much for telling the story. I think this is always great. And, maybe in 30 years, we'll have to do this again, right?
We'll do it again. Yeah.
We'll talk about it. I think it's important, though, to keep, like, someone the other day, I kept posting like updates every day, like, hey, 20 years ago today. And I had somebody comment like they were a little PTSD, and I understand that. Obviously, someone who we just went through Helene, I'm very conscious of this now
Sure,
in
sure.
Western North Carolina. But part of me is also like, I think it's important for people to remember like what happened, right? Because our past is really can help you in the future prepare for storms.
There are
Um,
patterns to history, Brad. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's important for people to remember what happened because, as you know, pre-Katrina, what did every person in New Orleans say when a storm happened? I'm not evacuating. I've been here
It's going to
X amount of
turn.
years. Yeah, I've been here so many years. It's not coming.
Yeah.
And now post-Katrina, everybody's out of there, right?
Yeah.
Um, so the
Yeah.
history, the memory of that disaster is important. It gets people to act on future storms.
It does. And that was one of my challenges in covering it on that Saturday is I need to put myself in the shoes of the people who are watching this.
Yeah.
What are they thinking? What's going through their mind? I knew what was going through their mind was, well, Ivan turned last year.
Yep. Every storm
Did the same
turned.
thing. And how do I convince them that it's not? And I don't know if you remember the one graphic I had of the model data that showed it coming right over top of New Orleans. And
Yep.
I kept showing that over and over and over again. And that was the early days of getting model data into the old WSI weather computers,
Yeah.
back in the
GFDL, man.
day. Yeah. And then we were showing spaghetti plots back in those days too.
Yeah.
But we had to take them off the internet, which was probably illegal to do, a copyright infringement or something. But I think people needed to see it.
Yeah. And that market was very tropical savvy. That's the thing I remember about working down there. And nobody else could understand. Like we would show stuff on air there that you wouldn't show any other part of the country because
exactly. Well, I
understood it.
Call me at the NWA conference. I had a meteorologist that will go unnamed from I think Nebraska call me out like, what you're saying stuff that people don't understand. I'm like, no, they get it in New Orleans. Like,
I think it was water vapor. You showed the water vapor loop, and people are like, "What?"
I talked about steering currents. Yeah,
I'm like, and so what are you talking about? We show this all the time.
It's like the dry line in Oklahoma and Texas. If you say dry line anywhere else in the country, you better explain it. But down there, you don't have to explain.
No, that's a tropical savvy market. They understand what they're looking for.
Stuff. They really do. A different world for sure. But yeah, I'm so glad that our paths crossed. It was meant to be. And again, Brad Panovich, folk hero in the Gum household, eternity.
Well, thanks, yeah. I got to hook up with you again sometime at a conference or something when you get back out.
I got to the busy portion of, you know how it is, young children, and
it's hard to get away.
And I'm always trying to help out and do things and around the house and help the kids. But now they're getting older. I got one in college, one that'll be in college next year. So I'm hoping to have some more time to get out there to conferences and see we're the old timers now. We used to be the young kids.
I know.
Like we were the young guys, the young energetic guys coming out. Now we're like the graybeards.
Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Time to go to the room. It's like
exactly.
Go out. Yeah, get 3 hours of sleep and then be in sessions all day.
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. Well, I think our encounter in 2004 in Portland, Oregon was meant to be. It wasn't just a chance encounter. And it's kind of funny. Another person I met at that conference, I took his job in Cincinnati. That's how I knew about the job.
Oh, that's crazy.
Jude Redfield. I want to give him a shout out. WDRB in Louisville. He's the morning meteorologist there. And so Jude, I met in 2004 out in Portland when I met you. And I knew he was from the Cincinnati area, went to Covington Catholic High School. And so we connected. And when I'm at my in-laws' house in Bloomington with a newborn living in the basement, Jude calls me and says, "Heard what happened? That's crazy. I want to let you know I'm going to Indianapolis. My job's open. So, if you think they're gullible enough to hire you, here's their phone numbers and, see what happens." So that's how I ended up in Cincinnati. He gave me the number of the chief meteorologist, the late, great Tim Hedrick, who you knew Tim Hedrick.
Yeah. So that's another weird connection we had.
Story. Yeah. Tell me that story.
Yeah, so before I even met you or knew you, I was at Ohio State and I was graduating and I didn't want to go into broadcasting at all. I thought I'd work
Neither did I.
Service.
I didn't want to either.
Similar to times now, there was a hiring freeze in NOAA.
That's what happened to me.
And so I'm like, I better look at this TV thing. And so I got an internship at WBNS, which ironically our company owns now in Columbus. And I got interested in TV and this weather producer job came open at your station. and I interviewed with Tim. And I remember this day, I wanted that job so bad. I was
Yeah.
like, this is the job. It was going to pay really well. I was going to live in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to tell you right now, Brad, you are going to be in front of the camera. You're not going to be behind the camera. And I'm like, no, no, no. And I swear I was so mad at him at first, but I saw him a year later at the AMS conference, and I was a chief in Traverse City, Michigan. And he says, see, I told you you would be, and you've got better perks than I do. That's what he would always say. He was a great guy.
He was, and we lost him far too young to cancer.
But yeah, I owe a lot to him because he basically talked me out of being a weather producer and saying, you're going to be in front of the camera.
That's fantastic.
He saw something I didn't see at the time.
I had a similar experience with Tom Skilling in Chicago. My first interview for my first job was to be his weather producer there. And I'm like, out of school, I can go into Chicago and, I mean, this would be great. And Tom, I didn't get the job. And Tom's like, I think you're going to have a good career in front of the camera instead.
Yeah.
And
they saw it.
And I was so disappointed and upset. But at the same time, like the next day, I think I got a call from a news director in Rock Island, Illinois, offering me the weather job out there. And that's how I got started.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Our experiences have been so similar and parallel. It's funny, but that's how I got here to Cincinnati. I knew Jude. He was going to Indianapolis. His job was open. He gave me Tim Hedrick's number, and the news director, Elbert Tucker, who's the news director in Nashville, Tennessee, at the ABC affiliate there now. And and the rest is history. I came in to interview, and even in those early days, I had my reel up on the internet. So back in those days, you still would send a VHS tape. That was like the common thing. But somehow I had it up on the internet, and
that's how I got my second job. News director found my resume and reel on tvjobs.com.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So like you, I posted on the internet, and somebody found me randomly. So
yeah. So I think all these little things are meant to be, because it's full circle. I mean, the fact that you knew Tim and the fact that I ended up at WKRC, I mean, all these connections, and I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, it's not random. It's just, there's something there.
Not at all.
Well, thank you. I'm going to take your time. I know, because you got to go to work and you got a soccer game to go to tonight.
Yes. And my daughter, she wants to play in college. She's got some Northeastern Ohio schools that are looking for her. Baldwin Wallace there in Ohio. Yeah.
There's some great schools in Ohio, some great soccer schools.
Yeah. So. Mount Union and Alliance.
Mount Union's actually a very good school.
Yeah. They're a D3 football powerhouse. So
yeah, they are monstrous.
She's touring there soon. So she might end up back in your homeland area eventually. It's a quick trip to 71 for us, so that would be good. I'd be able to see lots of soccer in North.
Yeah. Well, my daughter's a soccer player too. She's in 8th grade, and she's a keeper like me. So I don't know how serious she'll get into it, but she's on the club team right now too. So we're getting into that travel thing, which is like we spent the first weekend driving back and forth to Concord, North Carolina 3 times in 2 days.
Oh yeah.
So
we were in Loudoun recently, so we go all over the place.
Yeah. So, and she's in volleyball. So I'm like, gosh, just club volleyball and club soccer is going to drive me crazy.
You're in the middle of the weeds, my friend.
So my son, he could care less.
I'll see you at the next weather conference in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. I have to look at her schedule first before I can look at mine.
Yeah, I get that.
All right, John. Well, take care. Thank you again for doing this. It was great catching up. We'll have to do it again soon.
Absolutely, buddy.
All right, man.
All right.
Take care.